What inspired you to make a fan film based on Halloween?
The character Michael Myers, created by John Carpenter, is one of my all-time favorite horror antagonist characters because just the way John Carpenter made him and the way Nick Castle portrayed him in the film, how he was just like a shape in the night moving around, and he was an unstoppable force, and that just really made me, fall in love with the Halloween franchise.
You decided to go with a more traditional approach to the Halloween fan film than, someone like Rob Zombie, who took it in a completely different direction. Why is that?
Well, because I like the way John Carpenter did everything in the movie. I like the way that Dean Cundey did the lighting. I like the way Dean Cundey and his camera crew did the camera work. I like the atmosphere that Carpenter created for the town of Haddonfield, and gave you that, even though they didn't show a lot of things that say, ooh, it's Halloween, it still made you feel like it was Halloween. And the way the movie was shot, and it was just, I liked it. I don't consider it dated like I do a lot of horror movies that were filmed back in the 70s and 80s, because I feel like it kind of has stood the test of time, because it was so well made and so well lit and so well shot. And I thought it had so much more going for it than any of the sequels, whether they be Dwight Little's, Rick Rosenthal, Rob Zombie, whoever. I just think, none of them have been able to touch the original. And I wanted to try, I'm not saying that I could do it, but I wanted to try and be as close to what John Carpenter envisioned as possible with Return of the Sandman. Big shoes to fill.
How hard was it to cast your main hero and villain, Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis?
One was as hard as the other, actually. The rest of the cast, pretty much regular characters, your basic babysitter, basic high school, college kids. Not too bad. Yeah, you're right. The antagonist, Michael Myers, and the protagonist, quirky as he is, Dr. Loomis, was pretty tough to cast. So I looked at a lot of people. I thought, okay, who's quirky? Who can pull this off? And the name Daniel Burnley just kept popping into my head because Daniel's a really awesome actor. He's just so, he's just so awesome. He really is. He's very versatile. He can do just about anything. And I asked him if he'd do it, and he said yes, and he came on set and he kicked ass. He played Dr. Loomis's brother, so, he didn't have to be Dr. Loomis. He just had to have some of the same quirky things going on that Loomis had, because he's supposed to be his brother who kind of inherited Michael Myers as a patient. And then on that end of the stick, Michael Myers, I looked at a lot of people, and I just had met this young guy he was a friend of a friend. His name was Kyle Thrasher, and he's a big horror fan, and he wanted to come see The Crypt, where we do all of our editing here. And he came, and he was a pretty tall guy, and I asked him, and I said, hey man, have you ever been in a movie? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, tell me about Michael Myers. And he said, blah, 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 blah. And he went on and on like he knew everything about Michael Myers. I'm like, holy crap. And I said, you want to put the costume on and see how you do it? And he's like, yeah. And he put it on, and luckily, that was the only person I had to look at. I considered other people, but he was really the first person I talked to. And as soon as he put it on, and as soon as we saw him doing his thing, and I was like, yeah, that's Michael Myers. And the rest is history. There were not many special effects in the movie, because I did want to keep it in the same, field of view that John Carpenter had, the same, layout with no blood. Because I've had people say, oh yeah, I saw Halloween, it was gory and bloody, but there's really no blood in Halloween. And that's kind of the same way that Return of the Sandman is. There's a couple of scenes where there's some blood, but it's not, we don't crutch out on blood. Oh, we just got buckets of blood everywhere. I try to keep it more suspenseful, more in the shadows, more boo than ooh, which is what I like to say. More boo than ooh. Scary good. Gory's, okay. Scary's good. Boo. No ooh.